Hi everyone, Ian Benjamin, Digital Hub, and today delighted to have a guest, Amanda Toussaint, and who is, let me just tell you a bit about Amanda. Let's kick this off. So Amanda, she grew up in Leicester, graduated from the Manchester Metropolitan University with a BA Business Administration. A very, very down-to-earth individual, hard-working professional female, who's carved out a solid career in the change management sector, and she's worked for prestigious brands and companies and held senior roles where she's been accountable for making a difference, making change a reality. And all of her roles have been with tier 1 firms such as Selfridges, River Island, Boots. So from a change perspective, her skill set lends itself very well to the retail or e-tail sector, as it were. And however, her current contract is with AECOM, who I believe are one of the giants within the technology and infrastructure sector. So Amanda, welcome. Thank you for being a guest on the Digital Hub.
Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. Here. The pleasure is all mine. So, but I want to kind of kick things off because I actually, there's a gentleman who we both know, a guy called Philip Sewell, and I know Philip, and Philip knows you as well, and he has some lovely words to say about you from a professional point of view as well as a personal point of view. So let me just kind of give our listeners and viewers a taste of what Mr. Sewell had to say. So Philip says, I worked with Amanda at River Island as part of the wider tech digital transformation program. Amanda was assigned as a change manager to an extremely complex and critical EPOS, again, retail rollout program headed up by myself. The complex changes in systems and processes had to be landed to all staff across 280 stores in the UK and Ireland, and involved changes in ways of working for thousands. The thought of that kind of gives me a headache. But Amanda quickly devised an effective change plan involving training materials, clear communication, a feedback loop to give staff and directors, or from directors to the shop floor, the reassurance and confidence of the changes implemented in their stores. Without her dedication and leadership, I have no doubt there would have been a significant disruption to trade. I mean, that would be probably me doing it. But anyway, so I worked with many change managers, and I can honestly say Amanda is one of the best I have come across. So, boom! What do you say about that, eh?
That's really nice to hear. And to be fair, he did tell me that. He was very nice. You don't always hear when you're in a contract role how you've performed. You just kind of get the results of it. But yeah, it's always nice to hear good things about yourself.
Superb. But he's a lovely guy, Philip, as well. And he's a hard-working guy. So for him to say that about somebody, he wouldn't just say, as he said, he wouldn't say just for the sake of it. So
yeah, and he was one of the best I worked with too. As a leader, he was very calm, very, really great at engaging his stakeholders, kept everybody on side. And, when the crazy was happening, sometimes a leader can dictate the atmosphere for the rest of the team. And he was always like calm, collected, solution focused, and say, okay, this has happened, what are we going to do? So you always felt like he was in safe hands with Phil. So
definitely. Well, he's super really smooth as well. And he's so chilled and super smooth, you know what I mean? And when I spoke to him, and because he was a guest as well, and the way he articulated situations or scenarios he'd been through, a 5-year-old kid can understand it. It was just so good at articulating said scenarios. So I can imagine it being great to work with.
Yeah, superb. Definitely.
Look, Amanda, let's dive into it. We've got so much to talk about, and buzzy personality from you, and I think it's going to be a really, really good podcast. So I know that just for speaking to you before, you kind of started out in HR, and then you kind of got into the L&D, learning and development side of things. And so how did that flip from HR to change? And such a big scale as well.
Yeah, I think for me, I had always, I started my career in learning and development, really. That was the part of HR that really excited me. But employment law, all of that kind of stuff was not really my thing. So I was always keen on people development and how you help people change and develop themselves. And I guess why I kind of got into change management is that I think I realized really early on that to enable people to learn something, so if you're taking them from their day job, bringing them to a training environment, kind of give them some new information, there was often all these other things that needed to happen beforehand. Otherwise, especially when things are changing, where you're changing people's roles or expecting them to do something more than they were doing yesterday.
Yeah.
What would happen
flat on
is,
their face, right?
yeah, what would happen is people turn up kind of disgruntled, frustrated, and we'd spend half of our time helping them figure out why we're changing, what we're changing for, what this really means for them, rather than actually doing the job we were supposed to be doing, which was training them. So I think when I had those experiences on a numerous occasions, I found myself doing more and more things that weren't really an L&D partner's role. You know, and sometimes my management would say, "Why are you doing that for? You know, that's not really your job." But I'd recognise, for me and my team to deliver, we had to do all these other things first, or I'd have to encourage people to do things first.
Right.
And that's kind of how it happened. I always worked in IT. For whatever reason, I always inherited IT departments, probably because I'd done it a few times.
From an HR perspective, you were given like the IT stuff.
Yeah, so from a HR perspective, I understood the lingo. I think lots of HR professionals don't always love working in IT.
Sure.
Sometimes it's, you know, it's male dominated, which can sometimes, you know, HR can often be quite female dominated. You find, you know, there's different cultures, and I guess those two worlds don't always come together.
Right, no.
But I think because I kind of got comfortable in both worlds, I think I kept inheriting IT departments.
Yeah.
So you get used to the lingo, you get used to the way they work, you understand how IT works. And so it then became easy to make that leap, to just jump into the opposite side.
And then I suppose from a change perspective, especially from a digital transformation perspective where change is involved, having that IT knowledge and understanding the lingo and how it works, I mean, that kind of helped because technology forms such a big part of change. So did that help you kind of like break down those get into that change sector? Did it help?
Yeah, absolutely. I think IT is often leading the way in some ways, in the UK at least, in terms of change management, because I think IT departments recognise quite quickly that you couldn't throw a bit of technology at people and hope that they would adopt it, because what you'd find is just have a piece of kit that's not being used. So I think IT was probably one of those areas that really realised, oh, we need to do something more than just give people new technology and hope that they use it, because otherwise you don't get any return on investment. And so I think that's how it was useful for me to move into change, because I understood the lingo. I understood a lot of what change management is the fundamentals of it is learning about helping people move from where they are today to this new place.
New way of doing things.
Yeah, so there was lots of transferable skills. And so I, by default, had acquired all these things that just made me almost ready to do that role. And plus, I love change. I mean, I am a bit of a change junkie myself. And I think if you cut me in half, it would say continuous improvement, and which is kind of what change is all about.
Gotcha. And then so from looking at your CV and LinkedIn profile, I think was it Boots? Was that your first sort of like major sort of like chain gig, as it were?
Yeah, I mean, in Boots, it was changing from delivering projects in a waterfall style, which is kind of the more traditional side of project delivery, and it was moving to agile ways of working, which was a really big change actually for people in Boots, because you had long established, you know, project managers been doing things for 15, 20 years, you know, really expert, really competent, and then you say, put that all down and let me show you the new way. So that was a big change journey for people, but actually a really interesting one, and one I really loved and really enjoyed actually, because it was actually how do you help the organisation adopt a whole different way of working
and evolve.
And we all know how retail's changed. I mean, retail is now in this fast-paced, you know, technology is at the heart of
online
retail now. Everything's online. You know, people use stores to collect their parcels rather than to shop most of the time these days, or there's that kind of balance of the two. So retail has to really transform itself. And so in order to be able to get things to market in a different way, in a speedier way, to be more responsive, that's why we were implementing this agile ways of working. But it was changing it across the organisation and not just IT as well.
Gotcha. So do you feel as though that you are like a retail, that's your niche specialism, would you say? Or because now you're working with ACOM, which is like infrastructure, but I mean, but several gigs you had, it was River Island, Ladbrokes, I mean, so I've got that sort of retail-y feeling about it.
I mean, definitely. I think I kept getting recruited because I had a retail awareness, and retail has a different way of operating, different way of communicating with people. You know, they're not sitting behind PCs with laptops or with keyboards that you can communicate and send them emails. you know, in retail, just getting a message to a shop floor employee is a very different method than you would employ if you've got, you know, like I am working in ACOM, where you can send an email and people can pick it up that way. So I think people appreciate, often retailers like people who have a retail background, because you can hit the ground running, you get the way that they work, the pace in which people work, and how these kind of organisations are structured. But I was also really conscious before I took the job at ACOM that I was becoming a retail change manager, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know, I can do more. I'm not only retail. So I was kind of intentional about picking a role that wasn't technology focused, which is the role I'm doing now. It's not about technology, it's about people and ways of working.
And it's not retail.
And it's not retail. So it was like tick when I got that gig kind of thing, because it was kind of ticking my boxes in terms of, you know, something that I'm interested in.
Okay, well that leads me on to the next one. So tell me a bit about ACOM. So how did you get that gig? How did that land? And did you get reached out to by a headhunter, or was it, how does it typically work? Is it through a program director that you previously worked with that said, look, you know what, I know the perfect person for this gig is going to be Amanda, or how did it come about?
It's kind of all of the above, to be fair. So it depends on the role. Sometimes people go, oh, I know somebody, and they'll say, Amanda, right, you know, there's a job going at my place, or there's a role that I think would be perfect for. Do you want to come and talk to us about it? So that happens sometimes. But actually, in this particular instance, it was actually an agency that kind of reached out to me, who had seen my profile and literally just approached me about the role. And then obviously I went through the process of, you know,
hiring process.
To the people, the hiring process, and seeing if I was okay.
What was that like? What was that like for the hiring process? How many stages were involved in that, out of interest?
It was quite straightforward. I mean, I think I had conversations with the agent for a while, so I think they was kind of doing a bit of initial vetting, as they do. And then I really had one interview with my now sort of, I guess, my direct line manager kind of thing. And yeah, I think we hit it off quite instantly. I think she recognised, I think for them, I think change management is still a bit new kind of thing in that organisation. So I think they had comms people before, but I think they recognised the piece of work that I was going to be doing needed to be much more change. It was a change piece. And so,
to make a change.
Yeah, to make a big change. So actually, we had a good conversation. I think it was, it was quite an informal kind of conversation, but at the end of that, it was like, I kind of heard almost instantly that I had the role.
Right, superb, fantastic. So when you got that position, were you working previously? Because I know you were working at Selfridges. So, or did it kind of like, did that Selfridges gig finish and then you went into the ACOM role?
Yeah, so so the Selfridges gig finished like December time, and I didn't start the role with ACOM until March. And so there was a bit of time out, and I deliberately took some time out because, to be fair, it had been full on, and got the Selfridges to sort of the pilot of the big kind of rollout, and then that was my kind of swan song kind of thing.
Right.
So I took some time off, had Christmas, had a new kitchen, so I was like entertaining the family, had a bit of time out, and then my daughter was doing her A-levels as well, so I just wanted to be around a little bit more. And then obviously the world of COVID happened.
Yeah, Amazing.
That all just threw everything a little bit out, and then we had IR35 and a whole load of things that were going on. So yeah, I mean, I secured this particular gig, and then it was time to get moving again. I thought, okay, I need to find a role now.
Fantastic. On the sofa. That's really good. Really good gig. Now, so I mean, just want to kind of talk about something that's kind of quite. I know that you care a lot about. It's very, very current right now as well. But in terms of obviously COVID, how that has, have you experienced transformation or change being accelerated because of COVID in certain areas? I mean, or do you think with the current gig you're in now, has COVID accelerated certain elements of that change program more so than it would do if COVID hadn't risen its ugly head, as it were?
Yeah, I think for me at least, I think one of the big things that the pandemic has provided, if that's the right word, is this whole idea of presenteeism and how we change the way that we work. So instantly when COVID happened, I literally joined ACOM and was, I think I had about 2 or 3 days in the office. I mean, I was always going to be working from home anyway to a certain degree, but it was literally, here's your laptop, don't come back, like kind of thing, like don't come back in next week, see ya. And so that was a whole new reality of just, even for me as a on my own personal level of, suddenly trying to learn an organization, trying to engage with my new stakeholders, trying to, figure out this very complex organization with the context of doing that remotely. And only vehicle I have to do that is through Teams and conversation with people.
Madness.
But I think that's true for so many of us, though, Ian. Like, the world now is that most of us are doing this. This is the new normal. Zoom is our new reality. We have Zoom parties to Zoom meetings.
Definitely.
I think for me, there's definitely I guess for me, as a change manager, I guess the thing that's going around in my head is how do we engage our colleagues, engage staff? How do we work collaboratively? How do you share vision and strategy? And how do you just keep people motivated in a world where management are so much more removed from their people? Definitely. And I guess for me, that's a big area of interest. And how does work look in the future?
So did that change? So when you got obviously speaking to the program director, program manager about your gig with ACOM, and this is the objective, you want to reach X, Y, Z by this time, blah, blah, blah. And then out of the blue, 2 weeks later, as you said, or a couple of days later, you work from home. So did that change in terms of what the objectives were? Because obviously, as you just mentioned, and we all living and breathing it now, we're living in a new world. So did that change? Because obviously, when you got that initial objective, COVID wasn't around. So did it change? I mean, in terms of what you had to deliver?
Yeah, I mean, what I had to deliver in the first place was kind of transformed by COVID because everyone's attention became the pandemic. So, from the focus being actually, working with a particular part of the business, it became almost working across the whole of the UK and I, thinking about, okay, how do we manage communications? How do we keep people informed?
Wow.
So different offices have different requirements, like all sorts of things were happening all over the place. And so it became this quite reactive because we all were in that kind of reactive space. But
that's what I mean.
We actually just had to firefight almost about actually there's a new reality that we're all trying to deal with. And we were sort of figuring out what's the best next move every single day. Like talk about change.
So the objective that you had, you pretty much got it, screwed it up in a bit of paper, threw it away, said, okay, new sheet of paper. Do you know what I mean? Type of scenario.
Yeah, let's put that down. Put in the file for now. We might come back to that, but right now it's all about this. So it's all about the pandemic. So and now I guess we're now in a new reality of figuring out what does an organisation look like post-pandemic when it has to shrink in size somewhat. It has to think about what does the future look like, and a lot of what ACOM does, for example, is construction and infrastructure. So that's how do we do that? And I always think, what do offices look like going forward? What do cities look like going forward? So definitely really big, meaty questions that I think that at least are mulling around in my mind.
Yes, right. Yeah, I think I touched on that with you before about in terms of cities. We spoke about, a lot of local businesses now becoming businesses that were in the city, for example, in London or in Leicester or wherever, major cities, or the cafes are going to be sort of more regionalised and localised from local communities, like the Timpsons around the corner, and which has already started to happen. I think Timpsons has done a deal with Asda, and so they've got like little pop-up Timpsons, and that pretty much started off the back of COVID. So totally transforming how you and I live from a convenience perspective, because if we're working in the city prior to COVID, we'd always pop into Timpsons or into, wherever it was. But now we're going to have those on our doorstep. You know what I mean? So
this whole concept of a 15-minute city, sort of like, how everything will be so close to you, because, we've seen it, haven't we? Is it Costco? Costa Coffee, sorry, should I say? Who have like closed down, well, I don't know, like 350 stores or something, they're saying. So they are going to be closing, branches. Who's going to Costa now? I can imagine, the big swanky offices in the city where we've got all these Costas strategically placed. Who's going there when barely those offices have got anyone in them? That's right. So I guess we've got to figure out how you now do those things. And then now I'd much prefer there'll be a coffee shop down the road. And I could go and grab a coffee whilst 100%. I'm sitting here at home.
Definitely. It's really, really bizarre. It's just absolutely crazy. You can peel back so many layers of this in terms of what this pandemic has caused. It's just never ending. It's really never ending. But that leads me on to, like, obviously, I know something that's very, very dear to you, which is the future of work. Yeah. And you're in a position where you see and breathe change. So future of work, you know, touching on the home working from home type of scenario, how, I mean, what's your thoughts on from a mental well-being perspective? I mean, you know, I think there are individuals who maybe from the millennial sort of age gap who suggested that working from home, which is amazing, I can work from home from April, whatever, which is a new way of life. And I think that particular age group are now thinking, do you know what? I want to go back to the office. And I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I actually am quite surprised that actually the millennials and those young people in work are the ones that have probably suffered the hardest. It wouldn't have been the obvious scenario. I'd have thought, you know, even when I was doing graduate recruitment way back when, you know, graduates was always obsessed with, you know, what's the work-life balance in your organisation?
Yeah.
You know, how's the dress code? Because they're all about, you know, not being all formal and stuffy anymore and wanting this work-life balance. So I thought that particular population would find it great working from home, and they're tech savvy, and you know they know how to use all the gadgets.
Exactly.
They would just adopt to it and, you know, be a swan song. It'd be easy for them. However, I think what I hadn't really appreciated, and has become very true even in my current role, is those young people are often living in shared accommodation. So, you know, they haven't got what we, you know, I can kit out and go and buy myself a desk and you know, get my 2 screens and all that kind of stuff. But they're actually trying to work off the kitchen table where everybody else is. And they're probably in a flat with 6 other people, but they've only got 4 chairs at the table. And all these kind of dynamics that I hadn't really appreciated. So that particular population, I think, will find it quite hard. And they're finding it hard because they also rely on management and leadership around them to be coaching them, to mentor them, to help them develop, because they're still in that very much that phase of their career where they're trying to progress. And that has become harder. It's not impossible, but I think it's been harder to manage in an environment where it's remote and you have to be much more intentional about giving those people your time.
Yeah.
So I think that they've struggled the most. But actually, for what probably is the, you know, people of my age, people in their 40s and, you know, middle-aged folk, have actually found it probably easier in terms of the kit and being able to just find, you know, they've got an office at home and all that kind of stuff that makes it easy. I think the challenge for all of us, though, is the mental part of working from home, the mental well-being and our well-being generally. Some people really do feed off working with others and being in that kind of space when they can collaborate.
Definitely.
That's not always available.
So, I mean, do you think that having a like 50-50 type of offering to the employees that you can come in 2 or 3 days a week, because some companies have seen that the financial benefits where, look, you know, we were going to sign a new lease on a building, so why should we sign that lease now for another £20,000 a month or whatever it's going to cost for 5 years? We can kind of like not sign that lease now. We're going to save ourselves X amounts of hundreds of thousands of pounds. So let's encourage our employees to work from home and come into the office less, so therefore we can reduce the office space. You know, and also, but I mean, social distancing, you know, God forbid that we get a second wave, but I mean, I know that as of today, the 8th of September, it's looking as though the numbers are creeping back up again. But even getting into offices from using the elevator, social distancing, some buildings don't allow, or that there physically isn't enough space in the elevator for more than 1 or 2 people. And I think you and I touched on that before as well. So all these things as well makes it, you know, harder for these young millennials, if you like, to go into the office, because from a social distancing perspective, do you know what I mean, as well? So
and I think there's a kind of on a need basis. So I guess lots of organisations, even speaking to other colleagues and other people in, you know, past and present kind of peers, some organisations are making their office space available in some kind of structured way where you have to book space or predetermine if you're going to be there on a given day, so that they can manage the numbers and obviously maintain social distancing. But they're doing that because there is a need for some people to be in the office because they need it for, they've got kids at home or whatever, or they haven't got the kit and all that kind of stuff. So they need to be in the office. But I think also that this whole idea of future of work is that we've got to figure out what we use offices for. And I don't know if we will ever all go back to offices 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. But I do think there's still a need for an office, for a place for people to collaborate, a place to see your clients, a place to have that face-to-face interaction and to build relationships.
Totally.
But I guess it's just what's that blend going to be? And if there is a blend, how you manage that, because it's so much easier when everyone's working from home and we're all doing Zoom together, for example, or Microsoft Teams. But when some people are in the office and some people are online doing a meeting, it's always a bit more fractured.
Definitely.
So that's one of the beauties of I think there's been some research even showing that people who previously were joining meetings virtually always felt a bit like the outsider to the meeting, where the meeting was really happening in the room. Where now, because we're all on the screen, nobody has that sense of alienation or the outsider anymore.
Being an outcast.
But those are practical things. How do we work that? If people are going to the office because they need to, how do we work that back into our ways of working? Is it that we just join meetings through Zoom even if we're in the office? I mean, there's so many variables that we have to think about.
Is there going to be like a national template that's going to be the standard that HR and works to, that the national standard of working from home, if you're this type of person and this type of role, means you should be coming in the office twice a week or whatever? It's just, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to pan out. It's just... And
then there's cost, just being pragmatic. Yes, organisations might be closing their buildings, but then people will say, well, actually at home, I need 2 keyboards, 2 screens, should I say? I need a new keyboard. I haven't got a desk. Are you paying for my Wi-Fi? I mean, there's some real... who pays for the Wi-Fi then? I mean, it's slightly different when you're contracted because you're self-employed. But if I'm an employee and I'm paying for my Wi-Fi and I'm paying extra, it's who pays for these things? And I think these are questions that we haven't had to answer yet because we're still dealing with the pandemic. And so people have been more conscious to just worry about what they need to worry about.
Safety and all the rest of it,
Yeah, but I think people are going to, in the longer term, if you're going to say that I have a home working contract, well, what do I get with that? Because are you paying for my Wi-Fi? Are you paying my electricity bill or a fifth of it because you're having 1/5 of my room?
It's going to be the same. Yeah, it's going to be the same as where a company would pay for their sales reps, mobile phone bill. But now, paying for your Wi-Fi is going to become the norm, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be just part of the normal sort of benefit that you get for signing up to a company. Really interesting.
There's so many things to think about, from technology and the kit that you give people, but also I guess for me it's also that other side, which is the emotional well-being, and how do you motivate, engage your people? How do you, from a change perspective, how do you know that they are adopting the change when it's so much more remote? We're going to have to find new ways of measuring and monitoring, engagement and adoption. So these are all things that I guess I sit down thinking, well, how do I do that? I'm having to learn on the job, because we're all having to learn on the job. But,
so is that part of your role now, kind of putting those things in place? Because obviously you're going through a change. So is that kind of
Yeah, I guess for me now, even how do we communicate and engage with our colleagues? How do we do that in the current world? And I don't think anyone really has the answers yet, because none of us have lived through a pandemic.
Nah.
So I guess for me, a part of that is how do you build in at least those measuring, monitoring checkpoints to say, how do we adapt what we're doing based on feedback and what we're hearing people say? Because we can't make some grand assumptions about what people find useful, because like we just said, some communities are surprises, like the young people who are actually finding this quite challenging. Wasn't probably something we would have predicted, but it's actually a fact.
They're thinking, I'll be at home, play my PS4 or whatever, and
in my PJs or whatever. But we've got to figure out. So I think organisations have to figure out how they're going to do this.
Superb. Okay, interesting. Really interesting. Okay, cool. So one of your how can I say? It's not even a side hustle, because it's not even something that you're doing from within your heart, if you like. But your Beam project, can you tell us a bit about that in terms of what you've done? I mean, just for the listeners and viewers, Amanda started an organisation, Beam, which is about change and careers and developments of individuals. I mean, and something that you've started within the last year. Can you tell us a bit about that and what it's all about, what the objectives are, how you're growing it, how do you get engaged in it, and what sort of, tell us a bit about Beam. Give us a 2-minute elevator pitch on Beam.
Okay, so it's a relatively new initiative. We started back in sort of February, March time. And what Beam's all about is really, our strapline is about enabling Black excellence. So what we're really conscious of is a group of Black professionals. How do we support each other? How do we leverage the skills that we've got? So that's for networking, that's for collaboration, and that's for learning. So Beam's very much about how do we help each other gain a broader portfolio of skills, but also how do we help each other in terms of collaborating with each other and partnerships where they are. So some strategic partnerships for, you know, business benefit kind of thing. And I suppose that, yeah, that's at the heart of what we're trying to do.
Where did that come from? What?
I guess in the pandemic, well, it was prior to, you know, the whole Black Lives Matter. It was prior to that, but I think we all recognised that actually we probably just need to be better at connecting, better at kind of, you know, I don't know, equipping each other. We've all got skills to bring to the table. We've all got things that we're great at. It's that same informal thing that we do. Oh, I know somebody who's a change manager. I know somebody who's an agile coach. I know somebody who works with PMO. So how do we just formalize that and actually, based on all of the skills that we collectively have, how do we give something back? And how do we help others who, you know, often you get people saying, well, how did you get into IT? Or how did you get into change? Or how do you start working for yourself? And so I think we all had those questions on numerous occasions and thought, we should probably do something to show people it's not some magic. It's not magic, it's just brilliant. This is how you do it.
And you're promoting this through LinkedIn, different events that you're putting on and getting speakers and stuff to kind of like, to, how can I say, welcome individuals that are interested in their particular, in that speaker's niche, profession perhaps.
So we have a webinar that we usually do, a Wednesday webinar where we're talking about, you know, our next one is actually on podcasting. That is happening tomorrow. But we have a Wednesday webinar where an expert, so to speak, will share some, you know, knowledge on whatever their area of expertise is, and those happen and those are free. So you can join those through Eventbrite. And then we also have what we call our Beam Symposium. So we had the first one in August, and the next one's going to be happening in November. And that's where we get normally a group of guest speakers, you know, quite quality people to come along and talk about a particular topic. Our last one was about creating the future we want. So what does that look like? What do we do as the
Where was that held? Was it online or did you do it online?
It was virtually. I mean, who knows? In the future, we might go back into venues.
Can you imagine?
But at the moment, it's online. And so the next one's probably going to be online, and it's November. I can't imagine Boris is going to let us meet hundreds of people in a room by then. I don't know if anybody would want to. They're online, so we have people joining from all over the world.
Brilliant.
And it's typically 3 hours, and we have a sort of meaty topic that we debate, break out, have chance to discuss in groups, and just kind of, you know, think about how we're going to do that in. So you're definitely in.
100%.
The next one.
Categorically. Well, you got one tomorrow podcasting. I saw your promotion on it. Yeah. You saw your post last week. I think I liked it. So yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you know, podcasting, I'm happy to kind of have a look and see if I can learn something. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm on it. Join along or join the debate at least.
Yeah, 100%. I will be there without a doubt. Fantastic. So how can the listeners and viewers, how can they get involved? How can they find Beam? So BEAM, and how, you know, how can they access the information? Tell them.
The easy way, I guess, is our website. So we have a website, so you can find all the information about Beam on our website, which is beamagile.com. So all the information lives there. We also have quite a presence on Eventbrite. So all of those, the Wednesday webinars that I discussed, all of those are promoted on Eventbrite. So you can book through there or book through our website. So yeah, I mean, we're pretty present. And on social media, we're on all the typical channels: Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can find us everywhere. And if you just search Beam Agile, we'll appear.
BEAM Agile, superb. Yep. And you're managing, you're steering the ship, as it were?
There's a team of us steering the ship. Yeah, there's sort of 6-7 of us that are steering the ship. And we're we're the kind of people who kind of got together and sort of brought this baby to life, as it were. But then we've got quite a big community of people now. So yeah, I think we're near 200 people or something who's in the group already.
Wow, well done. It's only been a few months, hasn't it? Since March. Yeah, no, honestly, Amanda, well done. It's amazing. And it's so current. Well, to start that, and then we obviously had the Joy Floyd situation and BLM, blah, blah, blah. So to start that prior to that as well, and I think maybe now with the current situation and hopefully equality, people waking up to the situation, that that it will snowball the popularity of Beam. So no, well done. Well done.
That's the aim.
Good. Kind of getting onto that. So from a a equality, Black Lives Matter, equality perspective, have you seen, or because from being in the industry, you're deep embedded into this like change sector, have you seen or heard about much change from like the FTSE 100 companies in terms of what they're doing from an equality point of view, from a change equality perspective?
Yes. I mean, how do I say this? Okay, so I think organizations have recognized there's an issue now. I think non-Black people have now begun to realize, when we as Black folk have been saying there's some issues here, that we haven't been making it up. There is genuinely an experience that we live that they never experienced. You know,
100%.
The way they get treated by the police, the way they get treated when they go into a shop. I mean, even in their own shop. I have been in Selfridges, working for Selfridges, and have been buying products, Pat McGrath, which is like an expensive makeup line. And when I was buying that makeup line, had the security guard from Selfridges breathing down my neck as if I was about to steal something. And I work there. I work here.
Well, you got a lanyard around your neck as well, have you probably? Not
at that time, but like I probably, even if I did it, I probably wouldn't have seen it. But that's the reality that I live in. Here I am doing this strategic work with Selfridges, and at the same time, your security guard thinks I'm a thief. So it's just the reality of your life sometimes, that you just kind of like roll your eyes and think, please, not today.
Insane. We shouldn't be living like this still. Do you know what I mean? It's just absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
I mean, I think, you know, that we as a Black man just take it as a norm, and we shouldn't have to. Do you know what I mean? Now, people think, really? Why do you live like that? I didn't realise. Well, because we just, you know, we just lived all our life like that. We just carry that with us all the time. And people are now thinking, oh my gosh. And I'm thinking,
you become tolerant, I think. You become tolerant in a sort of, not always a healthy way, but you just don't accept that this is the reality you live in. And you kind of go, do I want to fight these battles every day? And if I do, how am I perceived? Because actually what you get perceived as is the angry Black woman. You know, for example, an Italian woman can talk with the same passion, and she is passionate. But I talk with that passion and I am angry. So you recognise that you can't always fight every battle, and how you have to do that, because I'm always very acutely aware, especially in the roles you're in, when you are one of the few Black people at that level. Therefore, how you are judged is not just about, I'm not just representing myself. I mean, I feel sometimes I'm representing the masses, the masses of Black people who are going to come behind me, who everyone's judging me on that basis. But I guess organisations I think what has happened, and the positive that has come out in the pandemic, and the race pandemic, as I call it, is that organisations have at least pricked up their ears and are willing to have an honest conversation, and not coming with their defensiveness, recognising there's probably something here that we don't understand, and are willing to at least listen. I guess the action that they now need to take is literally that, take some action. So I think they're all developing plans and figuring out what they need to do, and talking to various BAME groups and all that kind of thing. But I guess what we want as a Black community is just to see some action. Yeah,
definitely.
And some practical steps taking place. And I think that's the bit we're waiting for.
100%. I mean, some C-level white individuals have to say, well, look, this is real. The change needs to be made, and they need to sit their hands up and say, right, I'm going to be accountable to make a change in my industry. So all the hundreds of different industries, all hundreds of different sports that are out there, somebody within each of those segments from the white community needs to be accountable for change in their sector. Otherwise, we're not going to get change, because the Black people aren't in those sectors of position of power in most instances to do anything. So that's how I see it. And I mean, it's just
I think it's important. I think it's really important that this is not a Black person's issue. This isn't all on our. When people say, "What should we do to fix it?" There is a part of me that has a bit of a wry smile that kind of thinks, "What I just want to be treated like you want to treat your child. Like, I want my children to be able to be brought up in an environment where they're not being judged on the colour of their skin, that they can be happy and whole and have healthy lives and all the rest of it." So sometimes when people ask the question like, "Well, what do you need to fix it?" There's a part of me that says, "I just want to be treated like a human, like you are." It's hot. And it's hard to kind of, systematically say, how do we break down, hundreds of years of oppression and figure out how we fix that overnight with, one initiative in the workplace. So it's not a tick box exercise.
No, it's not like a magic wand type scenario, is it? Do you know what I mean? Not at all, not at all.
But it's both sides. I do think there is, leadership in, white leadership in organisations have to take some responsibility and put some steps in place. But I also think Black people, especially if you have a platform or you're in a position, you also need to be able to feel comfortable. And I guess that's part of what we want to try and do at Beam, is feel comfortable enough to be actually to speak your truth and to be able to feel, you're not the lone voice all the time. Because even sometimes it's just nice to hear, it's not only me, is it? Do you get this at your place, or do you get this at your place?
Well, I mean, you know what? I never spoke about it before. I mean, it's given me the platform to speak. I've never really raised it, before, because as you spoke about 2 minutes ago, it just became the norm, and just kind of like we carry it around with us. It's expected. Yeah. So I would have never speak about it in this much depth at all. Exactly. So,
and that's the positive, isn't it? That I think we all feel comfortable. Yeah. I think that almost, the whole, we can't breathe. I think for a long time, it's kind of like a mass trauma that you just take on board. My parents will say things like, "You've got a good job, stay with it," or "Don't rock the boat."
Be safe.
You've got a good job, don't worry about it. And you kind of, after a while, there's a part of you that's sort of, you have to figure out what that reality is for you. And actually having children, I have a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old, looking at them and thinking, you can't inherit this. This is not, like, I'm not giving you this to be tolerated. So feeling like change has to come, because actually,
I'm with you.
You can't just say, okay, the next generation will take it on. Like, no. There's something we need to do.
It's been going on too long, and it's getting worse. It's getting worse. You know what I mean? So no, man, I've got to do something, definitely, without a doubt. Yeah. Fantastic. Now we're going to get under the skin a bit more about Amanda, trying to understand a bit about you. Mm-hmm. So tell me, what do you do? You've got 2 kids. I mean, I've got 2. I've got a 16-year-old, and my daughter Lola just turned 13 on Sunday, actually. And so busy household here. So I'm sure you're the same for what you're saying, a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old as well, is that right? We just had a 19th birthday on Saturday. So. Oh, really? On the 5th? Yeah. Excellent, fantastic. And so you've got one of each, boy or girl, or have you got?
Boy and a girl, yeah. My oldest daughter is about to go off to university, so she's off to Manchester Uni. So we're keeping the Manchester faith alive. She's going to Manchester Uni to do politics and French, and she leaves on the 19th of September. So yeah, I'm trying.
Oh my gosh! It's not too far away. It's not too far away.
So yeah, it's a change. This is like a life change experience now. Like I'm having to do my whole the emotional side of change. Like I'm actually living it as a parent. So yeah, that's going on. And then my son has just gone back to school, which is another, again, the change in our house, where we've gone back to the old, well, it's not even gone back to the old way. The whole school model has changed. Like he's staying in a certain area, you have to bring a packed lunch, it's all changed. So same thing. Our household is changing. But yeah, I guess for me, I love entertaining friends and family. That's kind of my thing. I love cooking. I've also loved going out for walks now. This pandemic is escalated that.
I was going to ask you about that.
Finding nice little walks and going out and just chit-chatting away with whoever I'm walking with. Like now, that's my new normal. Like,
so did you invest in a nice pair of walking shoes then?
I've got a few pairs of shoes. I've got a few pairs of shoes. But excellent. I've got my trainers out. Yeah.
It's just been another good thing that's come out of the pandemic in terms of the change that people are doing there. I mean, I started running as well. And I mean, I'm a big piece of work. I don't know if you know, I'm nearly 7 foot tall. So, and
You're nearly 7 foot tall?
Yeah, I'm 6'10". 6'10", 6 foot, yeah.
What? We can't tell we're sitting down, obviously. But
I know, exactly. That's why I'm sitting down. If I was standing up, I'd have to get
up. That is tall.
Yeah, massive, absolutely massive. It's in my genes. Mum and dad are both tall. And, but I mean,
we're tall people.
Yeah, if I was standing up, I'd have to get like a wide angle lens or something like that. But I mean, running on the bridle path behind me, I've done my knees in because I'm doing a bit of cycling as well, which I've never done before, and running. So again,
running as a 6'10" man is quite an achievement, I should say.
Yeah. Well, I had no choice in the matter. I mean, it's just. Yeah, my dad's 6'6", mum's 5'10" initially. They're obviously a bit shorter now, bless them, getting into their mid-80s. My sister's 6'3", so yeah, I mean,
wow, I thought we was tall. Like my daughter's 5'11", I'm 5'10". 5'10". My son is now 6'2", probably, and size 12 feet. So I thought we was big jeans, but 6'10". You got it.
Massive.
You win.
Yeah, huge, really, yeah. I'm like size 14 shoes. My son's like size 12. He's 6'5". He's 16 and a half, 17 in February. So
Wow.
I think it's pretty much, I think he's got a bit more growing to grow height-wise, but I think his feet have stopped, thank God. He plays a lot of football. He can't get decent-sized football boots.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but anyway, look, we digress. This is about you, not me.
No, sorry. Well, that just took me to a whole different place. 6'10". Wow.
Yeah, no, massive.
Don't find him that tall anymore than any.
No, you know, it's got good and bad traits. I hate ducking through doors, and I hate not being able to drive certain cars. Apart from that, I just roll with it. Do you know what I mean? It's got easier and easier as I got older, because as you're kind of growing through mid-20s, whatever, you can kind of be a bit self-conscious sometimes. But I mean, that's long gone. But I just embrace it now. Do you know what I mean? It's always a bit of a talking subject, without doubt. You know. But yeah, cool, superb. So outside of Beam, you obviously you know you're cooking, you're running, etc. So talking about cooking, so could you mentioned earlier you got a new kitchen? Is that right?
Relatively new, yeah. Last year was the kitchen. Year. So the first Christmas was in the kitchen last year, and so I had everyone over for Christmas dinner because it was like, you know, my kitchen had been really manky for quite a few years. For you know, all the rest of the house had been done up, but because this was going to be the extension, it was always like kind of put off. So everybody was waiting for this kind of Christmas dinner because I'd probably depleted all of my Christmas dinner offers, like from everybody else and invites. You know, like yours for Christmas, you know, you can't take my kitchen. So yeah, everyone was like, right, it's your turn now. So yeah, we had a good Christmas though. So yeah, had a good old time.
How many people did you cook for? Did you cook for a lot of people?
I think it was probably about 12 in the end.
Right, okay, that's quite a lot, isn't it? Yeah.
It wasn't too crazy. That was okay. Yeah.
Like octopus arms in the kitchen.
I'm one of 7, so
you're used to it.
Like, you know, that's quite a moderate number. Normally, there's like people in their 20s.
Wow, one of 7, man. Yeah, exactly. So is it like growing up in the morning, queuing up for the bathroom was like hustle and bustle, a hype thing again? Was it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, and I'm the youngest, so I always got the cook. You know, like you have to wait last, and you have to get everything last because everyone's shuffled in before you. So yeah, I'm used to it.
Brilliant. So what do you like cooking then? What's your favourite dish? West Indian twang to it?
Yeah. I mean, everything has a West Indian twang because you just can't help but spice something up. You know, like there's no. Yeah. I'm sure spaghetti bolognese is not. You know, it's not done this way in Italy.
Even my scrambled eggs has got seasoning in it. Exactly. Even my scrambled eggs.
You need to give it a little flavour. So everything is a bit of a Caribbean twist. But I like cooking lots of things. I like fish dishes. I'm a bit of a fish fan. And my daughter's now decided she wants to be a vegetarian or, you know, plant-based more than just not full-on vegetarian, not full-on plant-based, but kind of somewhere in between a vegetarian and plant-based. So that's a whole new activity.
That's a vegetarian to me. Do you know what I mean? Vegan-ish a little bit.
Yeah. Sort of ish. So we're trying to figure out how do you cook meals that don't have meat in for her. So that's a whole new challenge, and still make them tasty. And I ain't got time to be making everybody some different dish. So we've got to figure out how do we cook this, and then we can.
No, I ain't got time for that.
Yeah, we've got to figure out how it all works in the whole. But yeah, so but I like it at the same time because it gives me a cooking challenge.
Fantastic. What's in your iTunes or your Spotify now? What do you listen to?
Oh, I'm a bit of an old school girl. So I like 90s R&B.
Oh, so like Jill Scott?
Yeah, I love a bit of Jill Scott and like,
I do?
Yeah, and the Maxwell and those kind of people. But I also like the more like, you know, the Blackstreet and SWV as well.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So I like it all. But to be fair, also my daughter's getting me into Afrobeats because she's always playing it. And I'm like, what is this? Who is this?
Yeah, I'm getting into it a little bit as well, actually. I'm a house guy. I love my house music. But there's an Afrobeats guy called, there's a DJ called Black Coffee. And I don't know if you heard of him. I'll tell you, amazing. Really, really good. Yeah, really, really good.
Yeah, so she's always playing, like, you know, we've got a big TV in the kitchen. So she's always got music on while she's, you know, doing chores or whatever. And I'm always like, who is this now? And normally she's stealing my music and claiming it like, I've you know, it's not a big deal. And so now I'm stealing her music. So
making it not interested.
Yeah, like I just go on to like, what's it called, Shazam or whatever, and pick it up that way so I don't have to even ask her. So then I'm like, oh no, I've had this song for ages. Yeah, I've been playing it for years. Oh no, I heard this on the radio.
Excellent, love it. She's like, oh, my mum's pretty cool, man. My mum's pretty fly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I need to ask her.
Superb. So, sports, into sports at all? You into sports? Not really now. But
not really. I like watching it. Like, I love watching basketball and stuff like that, but I don't really play any. I'm really quite, I've not been doing much physical activity.
You must have grown up, obviously, house of 7 kids. I mean, there must have been cricket played. I mean, your mum, dad.
Oh, yeah. My dad would have watch the cricket and have the radio on. So the volume would be down on the TV because the
Oh
commentaries
my
were on the
gosh.
radio, he would say, but
Yeah,
actually you want to see what was going on TV. So you'd come home from school and you'd hear the cricket, and it would be like that. Just be like for weeks, isn't it? Like it's just on forever. It felt like, and you have no chance to, in those days you had like a television, so the television was being hogged continuously by my dad for weeks while we watched, the West Indies versus England.
And that back in the day when there's only like about one TV in a household, there as well, and only about 4 channels. I mean,
exactly. So you've been tortured, and you just kind of rolling your eyes thinking, I want to watch like kids TV, which was on for about 2 hours in the evening, wasn't like from 3 to 5, and that was your little slot.
That was it, man. Done.
Well,
back
my
up in your room.
That. Yeah, dad hogged all of that with
100%, 100%, superb. So when you're entertaining your friend or whatever, do you mean, or even you're going out like back in the day prior to COVID, or slowly getting reintroduced again in terms of social? What's your favourite tipple? I mean, did you have like a little tipple, like you kind of like
a little tipple, just a little one,
just a little brand or something?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a vodka pineapple girl. I love
vodka pineapple now. Yeah,
I know it's not very common, but I do like that. Okay. I like vodka generally, so yeah, that works. I've started to get into gin. To be fair, it was a River Island crowd that was trying to get me into gin, because when we was in Shoreditch, which was one of our office locations, there was kind of a gin gin bar, and I was always a bit like, I don't do gin.
Me too. I never used to like it that much. I never tried it. Yeah,
but now with all these flavoured gins, I'm kind of into that.
100%. I drink gin at least a couple of times a week, and so yeah, without a doubt, and I put my bit of cucumber in it as well if I can bother.
Yeah,
to be fair,
berries.
The first, cucumbers. Then I did that for the first 1 or 2. Then after that, I can't be bothered anymore. I just kind of like, you know what I mean?
Just knock them back, Ian. Knock them back.
Start flowing down. I'm like, I can't bother to kind of slice it up anymore. No, fantastic. Yeah. So if you had a choice, Chanel or Gucci, what's your thing?
See, I don't really do the designer bag thing. I'm a bit too cheap.
Really?
I like quality, but I think there's a place where I like a nice leather bag, or a good quality, well-made item. But it gets to a place where I'm $2,000 for a handbag. I'm like, it just seems a bit rude. Like, there's to the point where it's an insult price. Well, I should say that after working with Selfridges, but like, I'd be like going around like, you people got time to spend this kind of money on one key ring? Like, it's a key ring.
Key ring.
Yeah, like it's £700. It's a key ring. Literally.
Yeah. No, I'm not a designer girl. That's crazy.
I'm not a designer girl.
Absolutely crazy. When I mentioned to you about the shoes, you said, "Yeah, I've got a lot of shoes." I thought, "Oh, okay." When I get onto this question, you're going to be like, "Yeah, I've got, I like my Gucci,
Yeah, but no, I'm not a designer. I like a nice, well-made item. But I don't really like wearing designer clothes either, with the branding on. I feel like I'm being labelled. I don't want to be there with your Gucci stamp and I prefer to wear something that people don't really know.
And it's just quality item.
Yeah, just quality.
Good. Okay, cool. And your best holiday? I mean, I know you like the sun, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did have. I mean, I went to the Caribbean for the first time with my sisters and my mum last year. I mean, we've always been on, never been on holiday, just female.
Just the girls.
No children, no partners, nobody, just us. So that was really nice, because we just had, giggly, fun time out, no responsibility for 3 whole weeks.
Brilliant. That was all your cousins taking you around to this bar and that, and taking, yeah,
we were out, having a few tipples most nights, and then there's a big kind of a Creole festival that happens in Dominica every year. So there was, they have all these artists that come, and it was great. So we had a whale of a time, and we said, that's it, we need to do this more often now. Make sure that we carve out that sister time and just go off and have a great holiday.
Got to be done as soon as we get out of this blooming COVID scenario, and then we can kind of like,
tell me about it.
Replan something.
Sunshine.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, Amanda, listen, this is pretty much it. We're pretty much done. It's just been great, really, really buzzy, flows podcast. And I mean, we've got a bit of a platform. We haven't got a massive following. It's growing weekly. But I mean, is there anything that you want to say about, or anything you want to share with the listeners of Digital Hub? Now is your moment, and I'd love to have you on again anyway, but now is your moment for this time.
Anything I'd like to share? I mean, I guess I'm really passionate about Beam and obviously the work we're doing there. So I'd encourage people to just follow us on obviously all of our social media and check out our website. I guess I'm just passionate about, as my career kind of shows, I think I'm passionate about developing people and making that change in people's lives. And so regardless of wherever I am, that's who I am wherever I go, I'm the person who's going to be going, okay, what next? How do we make it happen? Let's get it moving.
Right.
So yeah, I think, just follow us on those platforms. So I'm excited about what's going to come. And I think it's a time for us at least as a Black community, to figure out how do we work well together. There's a lot of conversation about what we want organizations to do, but I think we also need to organize ourselves.
Superb, wonderful. We've been amazing guests, Amanda. Thanks a lot for that. And to anyone listening or watching, you want to reach out to Amanda on LinkedIn. It's Amanda, then Toussaint, spelled Toussaint, an amazing change manager, amazing human being, as you can see in here. And I'm delighted that she's on the Digital Hub. I'm picking up your northern accent, Digital Hub. Digital Hub episode today with me. So amazing. Thanks a lot, Amanda. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And we're going to have to get you into Beam as well.
Yeah, done. Consider it done. Consider it done.
Okay. Great.